Hi, and welcome to Geno's Picks. I know, 3-2 last week, and after kind of stumbling through around 500 the first 10 weeks, we are 16-8, 67% the past 4 weeks. So you can't wait to get on these winners. But first, you know what really grinds my gears? It's one of my non-covers last week. Jeff Fisher, when did you become that guy? He did not play to win this past Thursday. He played to not lose. 4th and short in the fourth quarter against the Colts, and he punts the ball. Because if he doesn't get it and the Colts go in, it's a blowout. So what does he do? He punts, gives up the field goal, the kiss of death to that cover of ours, and he just dinks and dunks down the field and takes a touchdown pass, the only time he really threw into the end zone with 4 seconds left. Good for you, Jeff. You got the cover. You didn't get blown out. But you know what? You got one hell of an offseason coming. Speaking of which, 'tis the season. Let's make some money for your picks. I know, pictures next week, I promise, but 7 winners. Can't wait to get to them. Let's start. My first pick, the Steelers are giving 5.5 to the Jets in Pittsburgh. You know, I love how people are sitting around saying, what's wrong with the Jets offense? They haven't scored a touchdown in 2 weeks. No, it's more than that. The last time the Jets scored a touchdown, period, was 3 weeks ago against the terrible Cincinnati Bengals, and 2 of those were by Brad Smith, one on special teams, and the only real touchdown wasn't. It was a short pass from Sanchez on a short field after a Cincinnati fumbled punt. So you have to go back 4 weeks when they scored a couple touchdowns against the worst defense in football, the Texans. How'd they do last week against the number 5 Dolphins defense? Exactly. How do you think they'll do this week against the number 4 Steelers defense in Pittsburgh? Face it, people, if you're a fan of the Jets, you realize their offense is like the nutritional value of a Big Mac. You know it's there, and eventually you're going to have to take a closer look. And the more closely you look, the more disturbing it gets. And let's face it, in the end, it's just going to give you a heart attack. People, take the Steelers, lay the 5.5. My next pick, the Cowboys are giving 7.5 to the Redskins in Big D. I don't know about you, but I've had it with Mike Shanahan. What have you ever done other than ride John Elway's coattails? And now, I hope all the Redskins fans are offended by him for actually with a straight face saying, well, I have to bench McNabb to see what I'm sitting on with Rex Grossman. Let me tell you what everyone in the NFL and CFL and World European League knows. Rex Grossman stinks. And if you're going to sit there and live this lie, you deserve to not draft a quarterback next year. Here's the point. The only person with a looser hold on anything than the holder in Washington is you, Mike Shanahan, with your grip on reality. Because in cutting Hunter Smith, that's trying to send a message, you also cut your punter. Hunter Smith is your punter, the busiest guy on your team. And let me tell you something. This Sunday, when Rex Grossman isn't turning the ball over, you're going to need your punter, who is now Sam Pelescu, your 8th punter in 2 seasons. The last time I saw anyone suffer through this much terrible kicking, it was Rodney King. Shanahan, you're a joke. You deserve the beating you're going to get. Take the Cowboys. Lay the 7.5. My next pick, the Eagles are getting 3 against the Giants in the Meadowlands. You know, people seem to focus on the wrong things in football. The Eagles are playing really well. They just went into Dallas, and Dallas is a really good team. You realize that? And they beat them in Dallas. The Giants couldn't do that. Giants couldn't beat them in Dallas. That tells me that the Eagles are a little bit of a better team. And the Giants are banged up. But what's the big story this week? Michael Vick wants to adopt a dog. Yeah, and in a related story, Kirstie Alley wants to buy a cattle ranch. Which animals do you think are in more danger? Exactly. Focus on the game. The Eagles are a good team. Take the Eagles and take the 3. My next pick, the Falcons are giving 6.5 to the Seahawks in Seattle. We don't need to discuss Atlanta, right? Everyone knows they're probably the best team in football. Their offense is great, their defense is great, they're well coached, and they win the way they're supposed to. Seattle, I'm over them. Remember at the beginning of the year, we all were buoyed by hopes in Seattle of Pete Carroll, because he doesn't let anyone feel safe. He brings in Marshawn Lynch halfway through to motivate Forsett. And the big signing at the beginning of the year, they get Charlie Whitehurst, pay him a ton, so even the icon that is Matt Hasselbeck knows his job isn't safe. But you know what happened along the way? The Giants played Charlie Whitehurst as the starter, and they humiliated him. And now, when Matt Hasselbeck goes out there, since he realizes Whitehurst isn't a threat, the Seahawks are 3-2. They've beaten the awful Cards and awful Panthers, and their other 3 losses are against average teams because there's nothing pushing Matt Hasselbeck. Face it, people. Trying to motivate Matt Hasselbeck now with Charlie Whitehurst is like your girlfriend trying to make you jealous by going out with a gay guy. Sure, the guys look good sitting there on the sideline, if you know what I mean, but once it's time to put it in, they just wish they were back on the side with a bunch of dudes juggling balls. Tell me something. Do you really think Seattle's got a shot? No. Take Atlanta. Lay the 6.5. 3 more picks? Wow, let's hustle. My next pick, the Buccaneers are giving 5 to the Detroit Lions in Tampa Bay. Let's play my favorite game called Let's Not Overthink It. 1, the Detroit Lions are on the road, and they haven't won on the road since 2007. And 2, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are undefeated against teams with a losing record. And I believe the Detroit Lions have a losing decade. All Tampa Bay does is roll against teams with losing records and destroys them. In fact, Tampa Bay should change their team name to the Tornadoes because all they do is touch down on losers. Yeah, take Tampa Bay, lay the 5. My next pick, the Raiders are giving 7.5 to the Broncos in Oakland. Look, you know I'm not big on Jason Campbell, but I like him to manage easy games. And what does he have to do tomorrow? Show up, hand off to Run DMC, show up, hand off to Michael Bush, and throw short passes when necessary. And then just let the Raider defense pick apart what's become a hapless Broncos offense. Orton's in the crapper, and I'll tell you something, they're saying he might not start. In fact, Tebow's probably going to start. And I like Tim Tebow, but he's not ready to face the Raiders D on the road. He's not. And you're telling me he's probably going to start the rest of the way? Oh, Denver. Let me tell you something. I think it's ironic that during the national championship game last year, Tim Tebow did an anti-abortion commercial because every game he starts the rest of the way is going to be one. People, take the Raiders, lay the 7.5. Which brings me to my Double Your Money Monday Night Betters. I like to call it, people. I don't know what else to tell you, but it's 4:30 on Saturday, and there's still no line on this game. The Bears are playing the Vikings in Minnesota. Outside, it's going to be cold. And I know the Bears have gotten more breaks this year than Brett Favre's skeletal system. But let me tell you one more thing. Things in the NFL and in Vegas have a way of balancing out. So I like Minnesota because I'll tell you something. The only thing falling harder than snow this year in Chicago will be people off the Bears bandwagon. Take Minnesota. Those are Geno's picks. Go do some Christmas shopping.